Another day and another Jonathan Kuminga update here at Warriors Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Tyler Smith, and on today's show, we're going to talk about some Warriors roster news you need to know on the back half as well. But let's just hop right into it. Why not? Just rip the Band-Aid off. Will it ever end the Jonathan Kuminga cycle? Well, Warriors insider Monte Poole, NBC Sports Bay Area, one of the most trusted Warriors insiders out there, shared a new update on Kuminga's free agency that has yet to really materialize any sort of resolution here, whether it be a sign-and-trade or an eventual re-signing multi-year deal to return back to the Bay. We'll get to his full quote in just a moment, but make sure you are subscribed to the channel. This is why you subscribe. We're covering the Warriors rumors and news like nobody else on YouTube, and we are on our way to 100,000 subscribers. We got to go piece by piece, brick by brick, and I need 211 diehard Dubs fans to help us get to our next milestone of 97,500 subs. YouTube.com/WarriorsTV. Go down below and hit that subscribe button. It's 100% free. All right, Monte Poole said this. The Warriors and Jonathan Kuminga's representation are sharing a cell in restricted free agency jail. Conversation is sparse, according to league sources, and not knowing when they can begin the remodel they hope will allow them to compete in the NBA's wicked Western Conference. Conversation is sparse between Kuminga's camp and Golden State. We knew that they met back at the beginning of Summer League a couple of weeks ago. That's all in the books now, and there's still no real end in sight to this Kuminga saga. And it's really unfortunate because the Warriors are letting Jonathan Kuminga keep them in this limbo. They are the only team in the NBA yet to make a move this offseason outside of obviously drafting their 2 second-round picks, Will Richard and Alex Tui. We'll talk a little bit about them later on today's show. But the Warriors, they're letting Kuminga kind of keep them in this jail. And yes, they do kind of have the leverage because Kuminga is a restricted free agent here. But this is more than just this offseason. This is deeply rooted in, Joe Lacob's philosophy and dating back all the way to 4 years ago when he drafted Kuminga 7th overall and was a big part of that process and has been a big part of the process that has kept Kuminga out of trade talks to this point. And this is just really mind-boggling to me. This is unprecedented from my point of view as an NBA fan. I've never seen a player this mid hold a team hostage. It is super unfortunate. And yes, the Warriors can bring him back and they can agree to a sign and trade, but the market is so incredibly run thin now to where the return that you're going to get for Kuminga, whether he comes back to the team next season or he gets traded this summer, it's going to be minimal compared to what you could have got in the past. And JK really doesn't want to be in Golden State anymore. We've heard from insiders around the league that is the case. He doesn't want to be on the Warriors anymore because of this stance right here. He wants to be the guy. He's 22 years old. He can jump out of the gym. He's put up stretches of 20 points per game. He's had big playoff moments this season against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Like, he has some ground to stand on in that regard, but I really, in my heart of hearts, do not see it. Like, this is where we're playing the game of hardball at this point. This is the jail cell that Monte Poole is talking about. Jonathan Kuminga wants $25 million plus annually, and he wants a star role. Well, guess what? You're not going to get that with the Golden State Warriors when Curry is who Curry is. Jimmy Butler is making $55 million a year, and Draymond Green, just is, I guess, a non-floor spacer in the sense that it is not conducive to Kuminga being on the floor and maximizing his skill set. And the Warriors, on the flip side, they haven't budged from their stance either. They're not blameless in this situation. They're actually far from it. They want a young player and a first-round pick in exchange for Kuminga and a sign-and-trade. And the market to this point has completely proved that is not going to be the return that you get. The Kuminga interest that we've seen has been really up and down. How real has some of it been? The Nets, it was never real, even after there was long speculation, just because of the fact that they had a ton of cap space this summer, that they would offer him a sheet. They didn't and never were going to. The Kings probably got the closest to a potential Jonathan Kuminga trade, but that was still reportedly ways away from all the people over in Sacramento. They offered Devin Carter and Dario Saric with 2 second-round picks, and the Warriors called that a buy low offer. The Miami Heat, they were kind of in and out of the interest rumors for Kuminga, and they were one of the 2 teams that were most interested, reportedly, at the start of free agency. Well, they went out and traded for Norman Powell, so there's not much room for Kuminga left on that roster, and an Andrew Wiggins swap is out of the question. The Bulls, on the other hand, they have been a team that's long been rumored to be interested, as they're kind of in a weird spot, to be quite honest with you. But they went out and traded for Isaac Okoro. They drafted Noah Asenge. And they're also reportedly not trading Kobe White at this point. So that takes a big-time Kuminga trade target off of the market, essentially, in Chicago. And then the Phoenix Suns are kind of the most recent team that came up in rumors. And the Washington Wizards have been floated as well, but nothing real has materialized there. The Suns have gotten, I would say, the second closest at this point to where, like, you would see an offer of, like, Royce O'Neal and Nick Richards, and like the assets really aren't great in Phoenix. That's why those talks have kind of gone cold over the last few days. So this is like the sense of the market, and there's really no market for Kuminga. So that leaves a couple of options here for JK. Like, yes, he could obviously agree to a deal to come back to Golden State for multiple years. But if he didn't want to take that chance of kind of not maximizing his potential as soon as he possibly could, well, he could go out there and accept the qualifying offer that is extended to him to this point, making him a restricted free agent. It's $8.2 million, and it would be a one-year deal that would make him enter unrestricted free agency in the summer of 2026. That would make him a total free agent next summer when there's a lot more cap space open around the league. Now, it gets tricky, though, because the history around accepting those qualifying offers when you're offered multi-year deals the summer of your restricted free agency is not very good. If you look at some of the names on this list, some aren't even in the league anymore, and this is since 2018. A lot of these guys were drafted less than a decade ago. Alex Len, he went out and got $4 million a year after he declined or accepted the qualifying offer. Nerlens Noel was playing on the minimum. Rodney Hood was playing for the mid-level. Denzel Valentine playing on the minimum. And Miles Bridges was the only guy that really saw a fat payday after accepting the qualifying offer, but I believe he declined even more of even higher of a salary in the summer before he ended up getting this deal. So it's not a good track record, and Kuminga is probably not really in the market of doing that, but it is another avenue if you really, really wanted to gamble on himself, as a qualifying offer also extends a no-trade clause for that final year of that contract. But if that were to be the case, I would wonder if the Warriors would rescind the qualifying offer for Kuminga and make him an unrestricted free agent right now, because there's already so little cap space around the league. Teams would really have to maneuver around and already have to probably complete a sign and trade in order for Kuminga to, be an unrestricted free agent and sign with them outright. Like, it would get very, very tricky if that were to be the case. But with all that being said, that's kind of all the latest and really the history of what we have with Kuminga as far as this offseason goes. What's your take on it? What happens with him at this point in time? It is July 23rd, and it looks like this situation could potentially drag out into August. Is it a multi-year deal? Is he signed to accept the qualifying offer, potentially take a huge risk? Or the two sides come together on a sign and trade? You let me know down in the comment section. We'll talk about all these possibilities and what they mean for Golden State in just a moment. But get hooked up with this awesome deal with our friends over at Fanatics to commemorate the Warriors 2025 playoff run, where they exceeded a lot of people's expectations this season. I think it's an awesome shirt, Nike, and you guys can get it at this link right here, chatsports.com/win4bay. It was $35, now it's $18, literally half off. So go get this awesome deal. The sizes are running out though, so that link is in the comment section and description of today's video. Go get yourself a Warriors 2025 playoff tee today. Man, I can't speak. Now, Warriors roster news that you guys need to know. We're going to talk about where Golden State's roster is at this point in time as far as how it relates to the cap space situation, the NBA's aprons, the CBA, and all the NBA roster rules that the Warriors will have to follow, as they are far from complete at this point. Here is what my guy, shout out to Perks over at GSW CBA. You can follow him on Twitter. He's also one of the moderators of the Warriors subreddit, and he did a really, really comprehensive breakdown of Kuminga's situation and how it relates to everything else and all the other moving parts on the Golden State Warriors roster. So as it stands right now, the Warriors have 9 standard contracts on the team: Curry, Butler, Draymond, Moody, Hield, Podziemski, TJD, Guy Santos, and Quentin Post. Those final 2 guys, they just had their team options most recently accepted by the Golden State Warriors. Those are really the only roster moves that they've made so far. You also have 2 two-way spots that are occupied right now: Jackson Rowe and Taron Armstrong. They spent time, basically all their time, with the Santa Cruz Warriors last season. There is a two-way slot open at this point. I believe that is the one that was occupied by Kevin Knox late in the season last year, and now it's opened up in the offseason. But it could be, again, occupied by Knox, as he was seen hanging out with a bunch of the Dubs this offseason. And then the Exhibit 10 deals that are out there: LJ Cryer, Coleman Hawkins, and Chance McMillan, all guys who were on that Warriors Summer League roster, and they are going to see some training camp invites and some tryouts with Golden State. Who knows if they could end up in Santa Cruz as well. So as it stands right now, the Warriors have $170 million committed, and that means they're about It's $30 million, close to $30 million away from the second apron, and it's close to $20 million away from the first apron. But let's talk about the roster rules and regulations that they need to follow first. They must sign 5 players before the start of this season, and that could come with obviously their 2 rookies that they have. Those 2-way deals that they could be out there assigned to. And then, obviously, there's going to be more free agents that the Warriors are going to, come to agreements with after the Kuminga's dust has settled. And we have heard about some potential targets that have been in the Warriors rumor mill basically since the start of free agency. That's Al Horford and DeAnthony Melton. We did hear from Brett Siegel over at Clutch Points that people around the league believe that these 2 guys have come to verbal agreements with the Golden State Warriors as free agents this offseason. So as it stands right now, and this is kind of the projections as to what their deals would be, Al Horford would take up the taxpayer mid-level exception, and then DeAnthony Melton would take up a vet minimum slot as well. So now we're at 11 players. So now we got to get to 14. We're not even talking about Kuminga just yet. Even though his stuff has to be sorted out first, we still have to talk about that the Warriors need 3 more players after those 2 free agents are signed. So when Al Horford and DeAnthony Melton join the fold, this is how things stand at this point. The Warriors, below the first apron, which they really don't want to exceed too much, they're $17 million away. But if they bring back Kuminga, obviously they're going to, and then they'll end up being probably hard capped at that second apron. They are about $30 million away from that second apron. At this point, there's 0 chance they are exceeding that. By no means will they be a second apron team heading into next season, $28.9 million. So the only way that they can kind of round out this roster after potentially bringing in their second-round picks as well, Tui and Richard, is going to be vet minimums after the J.K. dust. And this is all kind of under the assumption that he will be re-signed. It's by far the most likely option that's out there right now. I just talked about the market for a couple of minutes, and it is absolutely barren for Jonathan Kuminga. So in all likelihood, he will be back with the Golden State Warriors in some capacity. Now, more from Perks here about where Golden State could go in that free agent market. And he said that the Warriors could sign a 1-year vet minimum contract at $2.3 million for apron purposes. However, if they use their final spots on their drafted rookies, Alex Tui and or Will Richard, their rookie minimums would only count as $1.3 million each, nearly $1 million less per player. Which means if they sign both of these rookies to the main roster to a combined $2.6 million, which is basically one vet minimum contract, they would have $26.3 million left for that last spot. That's essentially the most the Warriors could give Kuminga in the first year of his deal, unless they made a trade to shed some salary. So it doesn't look like they're going to make many more external free agent signings outside of Al Horford and DeAnthony Melton if they are going to give both of those final roster spots, or I guess the trio of final roster spots, to Kuminga and the 2 second-round rookies. But I'll say this about the last part of what Perks said there. Having to shed salary to pay J.K. Moore would be doomsday. And all records indicate from the way that the market looks right now that won't have to be the case. That's not going to happen. I just want to get that out of the way for those of you who might have gotten scared by that. The Warriors won't have to trade Buddy Hield or anything in order to pay Jonathan Kuminga to come back in the short term. Now, in a Jonathan Kuminga re-sign, the first-year salary, from what we know now, will be anywhere from that qualifying offer all the way to $26.3 million because they just the way that it works, they'll be $26.3 million, basically away from that second apron after the 2 second-round picks are signed. So it's going to be anywhere from $8 million to $26.3. I would err on the side of caution and think it's not going to be as high as $26.3 million in the first year at least. But who knows? The Warriors might want to front-load that contract and get as many assets as they can back in an in-season trade next season involving Kuminga. Now, Perk's prediction for JK's deal was a 3-year deal with some sort of player option involved, maybe in the 3rd year, trade kicker, incentives involved as well. I would absolutely assume a trade kicker involved as well, like Jalen Green got. So when he got traded from the Rockets to Phoenix, he's making more money now for himself. So the Golden State would probably do right by Kuminga in that regard. So this is something similar to what I've been talking about for this offseason thus far. 3 years, 63, 3 years, $65 million, something like that for JK would be something in the realm of possibilities for me. But you guys get creative down in the comment section right now. What contract would you offer to Jonathan Kuminga to return to the Golden State Warriors? You let me know down in the comment section. And make sure you are subscribed to the channel. That will do it for today's edition of Warriors Today by Chat Sports. Lock us in for all the latest Warriors news and rumors. When Kuminga stuff goes down, we're going to bring you guys all the latest on this channel. So lock us in, hit that subscribe button, 100% free. We'll see you guys in all the next one. And as always, let's go Dubs.